Hi, Rekless. How are you? You just beat Giants. It was an easy game, if I could say. Giants is struggling since the beginning of the split. Can you point their weaknesses and why this team isn't managed to win the game?
Well, I guess recently they made three roster changes, so I was expecting some sort of improvement. But I also think with the experience we got from IEM, going into like the last 2 weeks of the LCS and playoffs, we're gonna be a lot stronger than we were before, and even before we kind of ran over Giants. So, like obviously going into today, we weren't quite sure what to expect because after all, with these three roster changes, it might completely be a new team. But then again, I felt like we were really on the uprise after IM and with the experience we had from like all these games that we played over the course of 2 days. Because I think in total that's almost all, like the same amount as we played for 7 weeks in the LCS. So I felt like we were really like on point lately, and I think everyone's been really happy with the results we got from IEM. So we were quite confident going into today's game, and I still think we like showcased a very new, productive Fnatic. So I was really happy about that.
So you played Jin, even if Lucian was available after Ez was picked. Can you explain us why and why Jin is important in this game?
I think one of the biggest strengths Jin has in comparison to other AD carries is how he is able to adapt around his team. In comparison to other AD carries where you need your team to adapt around you. And I think like we kind of figured that out during the IM tournament that like once we pick the Lucian, people know exactly what to do against it because it's a champion you just see over and over and over, right? And I think same story kind of goes for Kog'Maw and Callista. So ever since we kind of figured that out during IM, we felt like this was a perfect champion for us because it could actually also like follow up on the productiveness that Spirit has recently been showcasing. And we actually expected them to like sort of respect Bennett because that's something SKT did against us during the finals and something Royal did against us 2 games during the semifinals. But once it was open, we like no one kind of plays the champion. We didn't really have to first station it, but it's something we had in mind going into the draft, and something I really wanted to play if it were to be open. So I just think it like fits me super good, and it like fits our team style pretty well. So I really enjoy playing the champion, and I think it has like a lot of good strength because it's very versatile of a champion as well. It has two super long range spells, and then at the same time two really good lane spells. So like a very well-rounded, balanced champ that I think can kind of go into the same category as Lucian, but it's less known and therefore it's more dangerous.
Logic. So, do you think, speaking of the carry ID, do you think Riot succeed by changing the IDC in general? And do you think every one of them has something special now?
Um, I would say in some ways they did. Yeah, I think the current AD carries all have like their strength, but I also think that like it's been sort of unbalanced for a bit. But I think actually at this point it's getting better and better. But like once they made the changes in 5.22, it was really unbalanced, and then it kept being kind of unbalanced. I think for a couple of patches, but I think at this point it's pretty okay. Like you have the Kog'Maw who you can put with the Lulu, and then this guy will just destroy everyone. Then you have the Callista who enables your support to do a lot more than he usually does. And then you have the Lucian, who's a very solid pick that kind of works into everything. You have the blue build Ezreal. So I guess every champion goes their own build path and brings their own strength to the team, which is, I guess, the whole ideology behind the changes back in the day. So I think they succeeded, yes, at this point. And I think it's really nice to finally have these changes because back in the day when you were just building like IE and Shiv every game, and you play the same style every game, it wasn't the most fun for us AD carries, and I don't think it was the most fun to watch either. But now with there always being like changes and always being new AD carries coming into play, I think it's really interesting to watch and also play.
So, another question. Your season is way more different than the last split, obviously. Even if your team is not in so bad shape and you made so much improvement in IEM, isn't it hard to manage to focus to rebuild all from the ground? And where do you find the strength and the courage to do that with the same team?
I think it's really hard, yeah, to go from like an 18-0 split and being the top 4 team in the world to having to rebuild everything and actually struggling against teams you shouldn't really be struggling against. So like ever since the year started, it's been really tough for me because I've always kind of been in the right team, if that makes sense, for the most part of my career. So perhaps not joining a team for once and actually having to rebuild it myself was a very different approach I had to take, both as a person and as a player, because Like I had to kind of step it up in terms of a player, but that was not the hardest part. The hardest part was actually stepping it up as a person and leading the team to success, because I've always had Yellowstar by my side, and he's always kind of being that guy. So I didn't really have any responsibilities outside of the game, but now once they all came to me, it was really hard at first, but I think over time I've really grown into the role as the captain of the team, and like the team we are currently having. So it has its downsides and upside, because I actually find it really interesting as well. I think if we were to continue with the last roster, it wouldn't be like the most fun of splits, because after all, the main goal is Worlds. But like now, Spring Split is sort of a training grounds for the new team, finding our groove and finding our style, and then I guess building from that on towards the Summer Split. So it has its downsides and upsides, but I think it's a really nice bunch of guys, and I'm really enjoying my time with them. So I don't feel like it's too bad either. I think it's gonna be really good in the future.
So your next game is against Vitality. It's a huge challenge because Vitality is one of the first of the splits right now. But you improve a lot from IEM, you told me. And do you think it's enough to beat them? And do you think you can create the surprises?
Well, I guess for starters, our last game against them, which was I think the second game of the split, it was just us getting like rolled over by them. So if we were to like make any improvements off of that, I think it would be really nice to see that we are able to understand how they play as a team and understand what we should do against them. But as you said yourself, we've improved a lot from IM, and I think we actually have pretty decent chances moving forward, not only against Vitality, but also like finishing the 2 last weeks of the LCS and moving into playoffs. I think we're gonna be a lot more of a threat than people expected us to be, moving out of IEM, and that makes me really excited to see as well, because beforehand I wasn't like kind of sure if we would make it all the way. Right? You have Gamers 2, G2, you have H2K, and you have Vitality, who are all like very, very strong teams and top contenders for the title, and I don't think I counted in ourselves among them before IM. But actually IM, I feel like I wouldn't count us in there yet, but I think we're definitely on the right path, and if we continue working hard over the last 4 weeks of training, I would say, I think we're gonna perhaps be up there as well.
That was actually my next question. Do you think you can make the surprises in playoff? Because every playoff we saw some team emerge and do some crazy shit as UL, for example. And do you think you can do that? And do you think you can create? So.
Well, I think we came with a lot of surprises during IM. So.
Names again on the wall.
Yeah, I think we came with a lot of surprises during IM. So I wouldn't count us out quite yet. I think we have a couple of more surprises up our sleeves, and then we'll see which team gets our hand first. I think as of now, it looks like we're gonna be playing Unicorns in the quarterfinals, and we're actually 0-2 against them. So I wouldn't be like all too excited yet, but I think not too freaky too, because with the experience we have now, I actually think if we play our macro game properly, we can beat these guys, because they don't necessarily rely on their macro game. They actually rely more on like team fighting, and they're really good at that. So if we can get a certain goal lead before fighting these guys, similar to how we played against the Chinese teams, I think we have a pretty good shot of making it through to the semifinals, which is something people didn't expect beforehand. So it's already an improvement.
So thank you for your time. I'm gonna letting you go. It was a pleasant interview. Thank you. I will let you the last words for your fan and stuff.
I guess this, as you said before, this is like one of my first interviews for French fans, and I would really like to say thank you to all of you, because after like playing Worlds in Paris, it was like one of the best experiences ever, because it was like 1K people, but they were the loudest out of all the arenas I played in during Worlds. So it was like really amazing, and I've always like had a lot of French fans, I think, and then I guess this is the first time I get to pay you guys back. So if you guys are ever like wondering anything, just hit me up on Twitter, and I will try to respond in the best manner.